Good evening. My name is David Cohen, and I am the proud president of Five Towns College. We are thrilled to work with the League of Women Voters of Huntington to bring you this debate tonight among the candidates for political office. We hope that you will listen, learn, and that it will help to inform your choice in the next election. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the students of Five Towns College, and particularly those involved in the journalism and mass communication programs for their efforts to bring this event together. Everything that you will see this evening is produced by the students of Five Towns College. Thank you and have a great evening.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Solheimer, President of League of Women Voters of Huntington. I'd like to welcome you to meet the candidates for the Suffolk County Legislature. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. The League never supports nor opposes any candidate for public office or political party. Lisa Scott, the president of League of Women Voters of Suffolk County, will be moderating this evening. Thank you, Lisa. Let's begin.
On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Huntington, I'd like to welcome you all to the candidates meeting and debate for the candidates in the Suffolk County Legislature. Initially invited were the candidates in Legislative Districts 16, 17, and 18. The candidates in Legislative District 16 are Susan Berland and Manny Esteban. The candidates in Legislative District 17 are Stephen Becker and Thomas Donnelly. And the candidates we had initially invited from the 18th were Stephanie Bontempi and Mark Cuthbertson. I'd like to, at this point, read a statement. I'd like to inform you that there will be no candidates appearing tonight for the 18th Legislative District. Last night, Stephanie Bontempi, candidate for the 18th Legislative District, canceled her participation in this event. In keeping with the League's no empty chair policy, we have canceled this portion of our forum, and subsequently, we will not be hearing from Mark Cuthbertson, the other candidate running for the 18th Legislative District. I'd like to introduce our timer from the League of Women Voters of Huntington, Barbara Raish, who will be using a screen with the time countdown and also will be advising the candidates. My job is to make sure the candidates finish their sentence, but don't start a new one. And there is a time limit on the length of the sentence, and I will signal, and after that, say something if you go on too long. The times that were agreed upon are that each candidate will have 1 minute to make an opening statement. I'll ask questions on a rotating basis. Each candidate will have 1 minute for their answers to the questions because all four individuals are actually running for legislature. The questions have to apply on a larger scale. I won't be asking questions specific to one legislative district, okay? And then each candidate will have the opportunity to raise what the League calls a red card, but in deference to the color contrast, they're actually fluorescent yellow if somebody could raise a card. And they'll get my attention, and they can do that twice during the entire debate if they want to add a 30-second comment after they've spoken in their opponent. And we encourage all the candidates to make notes so that at the end of the debate, they can reflect back in their closing statement on things that they really did want to say and didn't get a chance to. It's League, as Liz said, the League is nonpartisan. We also believe in civility, in public discourse. I have every expectation that that will not come up here at all, but I do have to remind everybody of that. There will be questions submitted via the chat, and we have vetters who are members of the League who are reviewing those chat questions. There's Joyce Whitehead and Nancy Halliday. Their job is not to give me every single question. Their job is to look at the questions, having listened to the questions I've already asked as well, and pass along questions that are relevant, not repetitive, not personally directed at any individual candidate. And if, in my judgment, we've really exhausted a topic, I'm not going to add another question on that same topic because we'd like to cover a lot of ground. And if I dare say, I'll be the boss tonight. And again, this type of public forum is so important to the League. It's really important that the audience, whether in person or virtual, gets to hear from all of you on a variety of topics. And that's my job, to make sure that continues. Let's see. So the candidates have drawn lots for opening statements. And we're actually doing that from stage right, if I do this correctly, or from the viewer's right. So, Mr. Becker, you would do the initial opening statement, and then Mr. Donnelly, then Ms. Berland, and then Mr. Esteban. Once we've done with that, I'm going to start the questioning from this end. You'll each get the same question, and then I'll rotate in. The second actual question will go to Ms. Berland and circle around. And as I say at every debate, if I'm not keeping track properly, it's okay to say, no, it's my turn now. So I appreciate the candidates' cooperation and help. So without further ado, I'd like Mr. Becker to make your 60-second opening statement.
Very good. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone at home. Good evening. My name is Stephen Becker, and I am the candidate for Legislative District 17. I'm not a politician. I've never run before. I'm a dad with 2 kids. I live with my wife in Dix Hills. I'm a Christian. But I saw the way Suffolk County was going, and I got concerned. I got concerned that Suffolk County was becoming unlivable, even more than it already is. I was concerned what kind of a Suffolk County my children are going to be facing. We already see the mass exodus of young people, the stresses on people with fixed incomes. Suffolk County is a financial mess. We need somebody with business experience to come in and fix it. So I was never involved, but I said, everybody says get up and do something, get involved. So I did, and now I'm here. And I'm fighting to make Suffolk County a livable place for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Donnelly.
So good evening, everybody. Once again, thank you to the League of Women Voters as well as Five Towns College here. It's a privilege and an honor to be back here. Just by way of introduction, my name is Tom Donnelly. I am the current legislator in our 17th Legislative District. I've led a lifelong career of public service since I'm 18 years old. Been a volunteer firefighter for almost 40 years, served 30 years in the city of New York, retiring as a lieutenant in the FDNY. I was also a member of the Town of Babylon Planning Board. I ran for public office first in 2003 as an elected fire commissioner in the Deer Park Fire District. I was elected to the Babylon Town Board in 2010 as a councilman, and then I ran for the Suffolk County Legislature in 2017 to represent our 17th Legislative District, which comprises components of the town of Huntington as well as the town of Babylon. I'm very proud of the work that we've done over the last 4 years. I pride myself on being a pragmatic, bipartisan legislator, working with both sides of the aisle. I'm particularly proud of our office, our 17th Legislative District office, over the last 19 months, has been able to assist so many residents of the 17th Legislative District during the COVID crisis. So thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Berland.
Thank you so much. First to the League of Women Voters for holding this event. For everybody at home who's watching, thanks for tuning in. And for Five Towns College and all the amazing students who are doing wonderful work here. I am the current legislator for the 16th Legislative District. The district covers parts of 3 towns, parts of Huntington, parts of Babylon, and parts of Islip. I'm also the majority leader of the legislature. There are 12 committees at the legislature, and I serve on 9 of them. I am the chair of the Veterans Committee and the vice chair of Economic Development and Ways and Means. Prior to being elected to the legislature, I served for 16 years on the Huntington Town Board. I'm an attorney by trade, but I've been a full-time legislator, and I was a full-time councilwoman. I bring experience, commitment, and results to my constituents and to all the people of Suffolk County. I'm a public servant, and I would like to continue to represent the people of the 16th Legislative District. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Esteban.
Thank you. I am Manuel Esteban. And first of all, thank you to the students here at Five Towns College. They're putting together this whole presentation, so thank you for the great job you're doing. I'm Manny Esteban. I am a firebrand candidate for Suffolk County Legislative District 16. I have 28 years combined experience in nonprofit administration, finance, as an attorney, and I am ready to lead. I am also an Eagle Scout. I am married, a father of 7 children who are watching, so we're going to keep it clean tonight. I'm also a Scout leader. Tonight is about you, the voters. Every day has to be. While I am running on the Republican and conservative ticket, there are many issues on which Democrats and I agree. And many Democrats have told me and called me that they're going to vote for me because I am representing the everyday person and not caving in to take special interest money, which I'll explain about later, which is at the root of Suffolk County problems. I answer primarily to voters, and I am running a campaign with civility and openness. And I'm sorry to say, but Suffolk County Legislature has become a swamp. I'm very sorry to have to say that.
Thank you.
Am I out of time?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, you were.
Thank you.
Okay. Just to clarify, are we able to make an audible signal when the candidate's time is up? Okay. Okay, I hope you all heard that. Thank you, Barbara. Okay, we'll start with the questions, and Mr. Esteban, you get the first one, and we'll go in this order now. So the first question is, what do you think is the most pressing problem or problems facing the county? How do you think you can help address or solve these problems? And these are 1 minute.
Okay. A problem is many elected officials are receiving special interest money, which means they are not free to vote in the best interest of the voter. They're voting in the best interest of their donors. Hence, our bond rating has been downgraded 8 times. We had to borrow over $300,000 to pay pension costs, and our county has a debt which stands at over $2 billion. I haven't taken 1 penny of special interest money. I have to have 10 fundraisers to get together what some candidates make from 1 donation from a special interest group. I respect the voter in that way, and I hope to continue not receiving special interest money.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Berlin?
Yes, I think the most important issue facing the residents is COVID and how to get past COVID, how to make sure that people get jobs back who've lost their jobs as a result of COVID, people who, have lost family members. We have to make sure that we are continuing to give all the resources that all our constituents need, whether that's testing, whether it's PPEs, whether it's vaccines, and give them the access, because COVID has really decimated Suffolk County, and it's up to the legislature and it's up to us to really reach out to our constituents and make sure they're getting what they need, to be able to be successful. So I think once we can get ourselves past the, the COVID outbreak, and it's going to really be a rough winter, I think. I think it's going to be, it's going to get worse before it gets better, and it's up to us to make sure that our constituents are taken care of and can thrive past COVID.
Thank you. Mr. Donnelly?
So I don't, as I responded to the League of Women Voters question, I don't view like that there's one pressing problem. Rather, our job as municipal elected officials is to confront the everyday challenges that our residents are facing. So just as Legislator Berlin had referenced, we're still kind of making our way through the COVID crisis, which is clearly at the top of the list. But I would also articulate that quality of life issues are always very important. That's the job of a local elected official, is to address the quality of quality-of-life issues, whether it's public safety, maintaining our parks, improving our infrastructure, keeping our roads in a little better than they are. Clearly, it's a challenge across America. But in general, I don't identify one pressing problem in Suffolk County. Suffolk County still is a great place to live and to raise a family, and I'm proud to represent our 17th legislative district.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Becker.
There is absolutely one massive problem that Suffolk County has that dominates every single aspect of our Suffolk County government, and that is the fiscal irresponsibility of the county legislature. We currently, every year, the New York State Controller ranks every single county in New York. There are 62 counties in New York. Suffolk County has ranked 62nd out of 62 for 3 years in a row. That is an untenable course that we're on. We're going to be going junk bond status very soon because the ratings agencies are dropping us. When we go junk bond status, you think your taxes are high now? They're going to skyrocket even more. We have to change this course, and the way to do that is to change the people. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Donnelly, you got one rebuttal?
Thank you. Yeah, just a quick rebuttal. You know, I know that there's going to be a lot of talk in reference to the budget. So when the COVID crisis struck the heart of our nation, Suffolk County was right at the epicenter. And folks have to understand that this county, like many other municipalities, is depending on sales tax as a budgetary tool. So hence, there's always going to be fluctuations. Most recently, between 2020 and 2021, the American Rescue Plan under the current administration and the previous administration have delivered funding across the country to local municipalities. So I think you're going to see an improvement both in the S&P bond rating and the Fitch bond rating. Thank you.
Time's up. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to question number 2. Ms. Berlant, this is yours first. And now we're going to do them sort of topically grouped. Sometimes there's more than one question in a topic.
Okay.
So describe your plan for balancing open space with economic development in Suffolk.
Well, the plan's been the same plan that I've had for the last 20 years in elected office. Open space is very important, that we, keep pristine properties pristine, that we purchase development rights for farms so that farms can stay in perpetuity, and that we do our commercial building, either in our commercial areas, in existing empty, structures, and refurbish them. But the land is the land, and you can't make any more of it once you get rid of it. So it's so important that we keep whatever open space that we can. And what's really important also is partnering with different levels of government. When I was on the town board, we partnered with the county. Now that I'm on the county legislature, I call the towns that I represent and I tell them their property is coming up. Can they partner with us so we can maintain, that open space in perpetuity for generations to come? And it's a balance that has to be done every day.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Donnelly, same question.
So we've done a pretty good job, I think, in the 4 years that I've been in the legislature on land preservation. We do appraisals pretty regularly. Susan and I have submitted a number of resolutions that have protected property right here in Huntington. I've done a couple in Babylon as well. So you have to balance economic development and economic growth with, our cherished natural resources as well. So I'm proud of the work that we've done, particularly on the land preservation.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Becker?
I'm sorry, the question was regarding land preservation, correct?
It's describe your plan for balancing open spaces with economic development.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm in business, particularly I'm in construction. So I understand the value of maintaining and developing our land and developing business. I have small kids. I like to take the kids out. I like to do things. I'm an outdoorsy kind of guy. So I definitely, by all means, we have to preserve Long Island. Long Island is not the city. We want to keep Long Island, Long Island. But at the same time, we have to balance that with developing sustainably. The legislature absolutely can take the lead for that, and we can manage it in such a way that we can build buildings efficiently as well. I'm heavy into high-efficiency equipment. It's what I do for a living in the construction industry. So by all means, we can do it smartly, and we can maintain our open spaces as well.
Thank you. Mr. Esteban.
Thank you so much. So Suffolk County is such a beautiful place to live, where 86 miles long, about 26 miles wide. We have about 100 miles of coastland. The geographic location of Suffolk County is so ideal. It has such fertile soil. And of course we want to protect that. We want to benefit from that. And we should be doing more to attract people to visit us and grow. And we have to hear from the people that live here, not just the legislators or the candidates who are up on the table here. We don't have all the answers. Many of you have wonderful ideas. I've spoken to many of you at my events, and so we have to also hear from the people about what they want to do, industry. But absolutely, we have to attract more people to Long Island to enjoy our economy. And one thing is we have to improve the Long Island Railroad and make it more comfortable for people to visit us on a timely way and reduce the traffic so people feel comfortable to visit us. Right now, there's so much traffic, people don't want to come here.
Thank you. All right, the third question, which will probably take close to a minute for me to read. Okay, we'll start with, let me go in here. Mr.
Donnelly.
Let's see, Mr. Donnelly, it's yours. The lack of proper sewage disposal contaminating our sole source aquifer has been a persistent problem. What long-term policies and actions would you propose for improving waste management and improving our water supply? And what, in addition to expanding sewers, can be done to reduce pollution and brown tide?
So it's a multi-layered problem, and it's a kind of multi-layered answer. So I'm proud to have been part of the federal government commissioned a study a number of years ago, particularly in the southern part of my district, as well in the Huntington Station area, a sewer study. So the federal government has allocated funding, I'm not sure if everybody's aware of that, for the implementation of some additional sewers, both in the town of Babylon as well as in the town of Huntington. So that's just the first step. The second part of that is that we have to improve our septic systems. And the county executive has really done a terrific job. I'm proud to have partnered with him on that. So the watershed challenge, it's multi-layered and requires several different steps. You're not going to be able to sewer the entire Suffolk County area, but it should be a combination of sewers and enhanced septic systems. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Becker.
Thank you. It goes back to money again and financial management. We had a sewage fund here in Suffolk County. The county legislature raided that fund to just fund itself to keep going, to keep business going. We have to fiscally fix Suffolk County. It affects us everywhere. I find it preposterous that we live in such a beautiful, developed, and advanced county, and yet we don't have sewers, and our drinking water, our bathing water comes from underneath us. I find it preposterous that we're in this situation, but it has to be a focus. In order to get there, in order to have the money to do that, we're going to have to fiscally fix Suffolk County. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Esteban?
Thank you. So this goes back again to finances, and the leaders who take special interest money, they take your tax money and they direct it towards contracts that they've owed on for interest of money they received. Hence, they approve contracts that are unconscionable, that we know we can't afford. Labor raises to special groups that we can't afford, but they do it because they get money from those groups and they're not going to turn it away. And let me tell you, and there's no money left for these projects, and it's very unfortunate, very unfortunate.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Berline?
Yes. First and foremost, we need to expand the sewer system in the county, which we are doing. I don't believe any legislator has taken any money from a sewer district. So we vote to expand the sewer districts, and we have put millions of dollars that we got from the recovery efforts from the federal government towards that. We voted on numerous projects that Legislator Donnelly was just referring to, and they're being funded, and they're being started. So, I think my opponent is a little misinformed as to where money comes from and where money goes to. That being said, in addition, we have the innovative alternative on-site wastewater treatment facilities, which are the home ones which you can get a $10,000 up to a $10,000 grant for, which we've been working with New York State, because unfortunately not all of our areas are going to be able to be sewered. Some of the 16th legislative district has sewers and some does not. So you have to work on your home properties as well.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to the next question. Mr. Becker, this will be for you. And as you can tell, this is all about the environment, quality of life. So the question is, plastic pollution is a crisis for our planet. On a county level, what would your plan be for further limiting single-use plastics within Suffolk County, or why not?
Well, there's a twofold approach to that. One is absolutely you can eliminate it. Another way is you can treat it and handle it with recycling. I'm a big proponent of recycling. I'm a big proponent of a lot of initiatives that keep our land and our water clean. I myself just graduated from the first kind of its course over at Stony Brook on the wind turbines, on understanding the fundamentals of wind turbines. It's a big project that's coming up. It's going to go a long way to making Long Island producing clean energy, and we can focus our energies on making sure that we keep our water clean. That being said, I believe recycling, not necessarily our banning, but recycling is just as important. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Esteban?
Well, regarding pollution, in my household, we recycle. We're avid recyclers, and I believe education and promotion, legislation, is not always the solution. We can't legislate away all these things, but we can have campaigns and educate people. Many people are still uninformed about which plastics are recyclable and which are not. So by having some education and getting the word out to the community, that's what we have to do. I believe we have some recycling programs on the books, and it's just having some good leadership to implement them. And I've also been at many government functions where there's no recycling. You go to these government programs, and you can't find a recycling bin, and they're serving Coca-Cola cans and water bottles. So we have to lead by example.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Berlin?
Well, in Suffolk County, we've done a number of pieces of legislation to protect the environment. We've limited plastic bags, started with the $5 fee, and now eliminating plastic bags, and the state has followed Suffolk County's lead. We've eliminated styrofoam, we've eliminated stirrers, we've eliminated straws, we've eliminated single-use cups, and, recycling is tremendously important, and I encourage people all the time to recycle. I'm a big recycling enthusiast. Recycling, unfortunately, is dependent on the market, and you find that different municipalities don't necessarily want to recycle as much as they should when they're not getting as much money for it. So I think we need to have state legislation as well that requires recycling and make it not dependent on how the market fluctuates, but make everybody recycle regardless of how much money you can get back for it. Because, once we destroy our waters, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Donnelly?
So, just to expand on what Legislator Berlin said, everything that she said was very accurate. It's a multi-layered problem, again, with a multi-layered approach. Some legislation is needed, and the county has done that. I would add that, we try and do a good job in educating our young folks, our older folks, the importance of not just recycling, but not polluting our areas, particularly our waterways. This Long Island community is a big boating community, and I would just add that we do need enforcement. There has to be consequences to damaging the environment. So our state environmental police do a terrific job, as well as our town Bay Constables and our county park rangers in trying to enforce that.
Okay, thank you. Before I get to the next question, I'm going to ask each of you to just make sure the mic is close enough to you that you can actually hear you're being picked up. I'm having a little hard time hearing some of you, but it may be the plexiglass too. So I just want all
sitting on a book,
comments
so
equally. And in fact, listening to your answers on the question about single-use plastic, I'm going to ask my own follow-up question, which is there's been a lot of talk in environmental circles about getting the manufacturers to be more cognizant of the types of plastic and materials they use in packaging, because unfortunately, a lot of the products can't be recycled. And nothing's been passed yet, to my knowledge, in New York State or in Suffolk County, which wouldn't have that clout. But I'm interested in your feelings about putting some of the burden on the people who are choosing what containers our constituents and neighbors are having to purchase in the stores, and whether there's a financial role for the manufacturers to play. Mr. Esteban, could you answer that first?
Yes, I'd be happy to comment on that. So we want to encourage supermarkets and our local businesses to educate them so they have more options on, as you say, Lisa, purchasing goods that are going to be healthy for our ecosystem. And we could help our businesses with that, our big supermarkets and the small businesses, through education and not always legislation. I am a strong proponent of helping the environment. This is something where I stand very strongly with Democrats, and Democrats are very comfortable voting for me. I'm an Eagle Scout, grew up with the concept of leave no trace, and I'd like to hear from some environmental groups. So if you'd like to talk to me, I'd like to meet with you. My phone number is 631-529-4111, and I would listen to what the experts have to say and what some of the local environmental groups propose. I don't have all the answers all the time, especially not on this.
Thank you very much. Ms. Berlin.
Thank you. I don't think this is an answer question. I think it's a opinion question. Yes. And my opinion on that is I think that manufacturers need to be more cognizant of the containers that they're putting their food in, and they need to manufacture things that are recyclable. Oftentimes you get a tiny little thing from Amazon, and the thing you want is little, and the packaging is like huge, and it's a big plastic thing, and it's either it can't be recycled or it's going to be a pain to recycle it. I think manufacturers need to be more cognizant of how they're shipping things. I know a lot are not using those noodles anymore because they're really bad, and they're using the blow up like plastic where it has air in the middle, which is great because that's so much better than the numerous plastics. And as a mother of an Eagle Scout, I can tell you that the kids are very cognizant of what we're doing to the planet that we have to leave for them. So I think manufacturers should be cognizant of that as well.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Donnelly?
All good answers. I would just add that many of the manufacturing guidelines that you're referring to are actually not under local county government control. It's governed by the EPA, and it falls under generally the Food and Drug Administration within the federal government. But I would just add that it's important that at the county level and at the town level that we enforce the federal guidelines that are already existing. That's real important, and to make sure that manufacturers are not depositing bad waste, hazardous waste, and they have to be held accountable for that. That's why it's important that we support our town code enforcement officers as well as our county health department.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Becker?
I work with manufacturers on a regular basis. I think that the manufacturers, it's a wonderful idea to start with them because they're the ones that produce this. I think that's great, but it's about education. It's about education on all levels, from the manufacturer to the consumer, even to the audience listening here. So we have to pay attention. So if we fix ourselves fiscally, we can have the money to do this. If you just go online and Google Newsday, December 3rd, 2020, where they wrote an article about the county legislature raiding the sewage fund. It just happened last year, December 3rd, 2020, in Newsday. So it is about education. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The next question will start with Ms. Berlin. Solid waste management within the county also continues to be a serious problem. We know it at the town level is where it starts, but the county has a stake in this. What are your views on composting as a partial solution to this problem? Would you support a composting program within the county? Why or why not?
I love composting. I think it's great for the planet. It's great for the garden. It's great for, your flowers if you plant flowers, if you plant vegetables. So on a county-wide basis, would probably have to be a very large piece of property to make that happen. But I think we should support, individual composting areas in towns and coordinate with the town, and with whatever local gardening groups or, any, environmental groups that want to start a composting, thing for their area. It's very good for the environment to do. So I encourage it, and I would love to investigate how we could, do more of it in the county for sure.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Donnelly?
Yes, so as Legislator Berlin said, composting primarily falls under the auspices of town government, but the county plays a role. Each individual legislator should be getting that message out that the town is doing composting and work with the local civic groups, the local Girl Scout and Boy Scout organizations. So, I have a terrific, cooperation agreement with both town supervisors, current town supervisor in Huntington as well as the town supervisor in Babylon, in terms of trying to get their messages out on the environment as well as on their solid waste facilities. And we've done a lot of work, as been mentioned, with the local Boy Scout and Girl Scout troops as well. So it's a real great initiative, and I'm proud to be part of it.
Okay, Mr. Becker?
I think composting is fantastic. I myself am a rookie gardener, although not very good. And I'll tell you, I think it's a skill everybody should learn. I think if there's a way that we can do an educational project, get the schools involved, get local charities and communities involved, I think it's a wonderful educational opportunity for children, for adults like myself that are just learning, and for anyone else that's interested. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. All right, Mr. Esteban.
Yes, thank you for the question, Lisa. Very good question. Many people aren't aware that we're running out of space where to put our garbage. Our landfills are filling up, and it's a very big problem, and it's going to be an expensive problem. Composting, I'm behind it. I just want to make sure that it's not a nuisance to the neighbors in that area if it's going to generate strong odors. I'm not an expert in this area, but we should perhaps, again, have more education, give awards to people, really encourage in a strong way, give some strong incentives to people and groups that develop a composting program. Many solutions are local in the neighborhood. For example, I started a walking club in my neighborhood. Don't have to go to the gym. I go walking with other families, and it's a wonderful thing to do. And this is an example of what if neighbors start learning how to compost and developing a new skill. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Okay, thank you. One more question in quality of life, and Mr. Donnelly, this would start with you, I think. Northport Harbor is silting, thus reducing the flushing of the harbor, the quality of the waterway, and endangering local businesses that depend on the harbor. This is an example, but it does occur in various parts of Suffolk County. What would you do, or what would you introduce from a county level to address these types of issues?
So we're already addressing it, and you make a good point about the water quality both on the North Shore and South Shore. So the county executive has really taken this head on over the last 5 to 6 years, say. We actually have a water quality czar in the county. He has the title of a deputy county executive. So it's going to be a combination of improving the groundwater, and you're going to do that by having the advanced septic systems available to our residents, and try the addition in areas along the coast, particularly along the coastal ways, of sewering those areas so that the groundwater isn't leaching into the harbor as you referenced in Northport.
Okay, Mr. Becker?
That's an important question to me because I grew up in Northport myself, so I'm aware of this. The county absolutely has to get involved, and we need to bring in some experts, but it's going to cost money to do it. But it is a requirement. I tried going kayaking myself this past year, and I couldn't even do it because there was bacteria in the water. Maybe it's because of the sewage, because we don't have sewers. It all ties back to money, people. We need to fix this. So I ask for your help. The county can do this. When we say that the town can do this instead of the county, or if we say that the federal government or the state should do this and not the county, we call that work avoidance. And we see that a lot when government employees, where they shuffle you from office to office, department to department, because they just hope you go away. Well, we the people are not going to go away. We want it fixed. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Esteban.
Yes, thank you. You know, earlier it was mentioned how Suffolk County is a beautiful place to live, and we're painting such a pretty picture, right? But for many people, it's not so easy. For many people, they're struggling to make ends meet. They can't afford a place to live. They can't keep up with their bills, and they're not having a very easy time of it. It's difficult to get good paying jobs out here. Things are very expensive. And look at the taxes many of us homeowners, those of us who are lucky enough to be homeowners, pay. Some of you are paying as much as $15,000 and up, and yet there's broke. We're talking about these simple projects, and there's no money for them. Isn't that unconscionable? Now, as Ms. Berlin said, I don't understand the details of these budgets because I'm an everyday man like you. I'm a family man. But what I can tell you is, when these projects, there's no money for them, something stinks, and I don't have to be a 24-year politician to figure that out.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Berlin.
Well, as a 20-year elected official, I think the question was on dredging Northport Harbor. So we've been trying to dredge Northport Harbor for a long time. The problem with that specifically, which I know from being on the town board, was that they can't find a place to put the spoils. So, and trucking the spoils over land cost a lot of money. So, and they couldn't find a place to deposit them. So other places that, maybe are not as high up on the list to be dredged as Northport get dredged first because they actually have a place to put the spoils from the water. So, and actually Northport has a sewage treatment plant. So, the water in Northport Village, what ends up happening is when the rain goes down the hills in Northport, and the water, the nitrogen levels rise as a result of that after rain, and you'll find that some of the beaches are closed after rain. But the Northport sewage treatment plant is totally updated, so.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on from the environment. So the next question starts with Mr. Becker. What programs do you think should be in place throughout schools and the community to combat mental health issues in young people?
Thank you. Mental health issues come in a variety of ways. They come in terms of violence. They come in terms of special needs. My own daughter is on the autism spectrum, and she's nonverbal. So I pay a lot of attention to these kinds of things. The county needs to get involved and provide support for those that need it. We have to have the programs for the children and for the adults once they age out of school, which they typically age out at 21. So we need to be there to provide them with the support, the therapy, the knowledge, and be there for our brothers and sisters. So absolutely, there's many good programs out there. I'm aware of many of them right now, and the biggest thing that they ask for is more money. So let's fix Suffolk so we can help those in need. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Esteban.
Thank you very much. Yes, I believe we have to help our charities. I believe in helping our charities more and being a good example for youth so that they see good ways of behaving, courageous ways of behaving. Young people look to us. And again, I keep coming back to the issue about money in this county. It all goes, there's nothing left for these small groups that need it, or for these projects such as mental health programs for youth. we're paying some police over $300,000 a year. Some people say to me, that's unconscionable. I love the police. They do a great job. But my supporters call me, and they're like, what's going on? And I tell them, your legislators get special interest money, and they keep voting up the police budgets, and it's going to go through the roof. And there's no money left for programs like we're talking about here in this question to help youth and all that. I would wish there was more funding left over to help our 501c3 programs, which do such good work in the community, keep the government out of it, and let the community organizations grow.
Thank you. Okay.
My turn?
Yep, your turn.
Okay. We've been doing the operating budget hearings all day today and all day yesterday and the day before, and every single organization that gets money from the county is being funded in full and getting an increase this year, because we do have money to provide for all of these agencies, and we are providing money for these agencies. The concept of not providing money for 501c3s because of special interest is there's just no correlation. It just doesn't exist. The county has very vibrant groups that it works with that care about our children. The county doesn't regulate what happens in schools, per se. So you have to work with the health department and with social services if the school contacts someone from the county so that that particular student can get those services. And we have tremendous people who have been working so hard through the pandemic to take care of children's needs and to take care of adults' needs. Mental health issues are so important, and we do a yeoman's job in the county.
Thank you.
All our employees are incredible.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Donnelly?
So, just kind of ditto to everything that Legislator Berlin said. I would add that, this is really important. I think it's important for everybody here. We have a serious mental health crisis in our nation. We've had one for some time. COVID has exacerbated it to another stratosphere. But I'm very proud of the work that I've done, both as a county legislator and as a former town councilman under the guidance and the direction of then Supervisor Rich Schaefer. I started the Beacon Wellness Family Center in North Babylon, and I'm really proud of the efforts that we've put forward there. We've made a lot of progress in terms of helping not only those that are afflicted with mental illness, but what gets lost is the families of those that are afflicted with mental illness. So I would just add to Legislator Berlin, we have people on the front line in the county every day and night, that are working really hard to address this. So to try and tie in special interests is utterly ridiculous.
Okay, we have two green cards. I didn't see who raised their hand first. Okay, Mr. Esteban, you first, then Mr. Becker.
Okay. I just want to say hello to the Hispanic-speaking community. Buenas noches y gracias por escuchar. There are food pantries during the holidays that have almost nothing in them. So when I hear people say, oh, these charities are fully funded, I am sorry. I have to stick up for the people who have to go to food pantry and there's no food there for them. So the idea that, that these charities are flush, baloney. They need a lot more than your special interest groups. And I'm sticking up for them, and I'm very sorry I had to say it, because there are a lot of very poor people in this county that are struggling to make ends meet, that have to rely on food from a food pantry.
Thank you.
And if we have more money, they should be getting it.
Thank you. Mr. Becker, you were next.
Thank you. I know many people that live in other school districts. Fortunately, my school district is good, but others are not, where their special needs children are nowhere near getting what they need at all. It breaks my heart when I see these small kids who should be getting speech and OT. They don't get anything. They get put into the trailer in the back of the school because the school district doesn't have enough money. The county could help. It's not. These charities are not cash flush. These poor school districts are not cash flush. In addition to that, I lost two people, one in my family, one a close friend, to fentanyl this year.
Okay.
If we just simply had the money to provide mental health treatment, maybe that wouldn't have happened. Maybe it wouldn't be happening to thousands of people here. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Esteban, please. I don't allow the audience either, but thank you. Ms. Berland, same thing, 30 seconds.
Yes, I just, I take exception to this flush, the chartism. No one said anybody is flush. What the accusation was that they're not getting funded because money's going to special interest groups. So what I clarified was that all of the agencies are getting the money that they got last year plus an increase. So that's what I said. The word flush is clearly, something coming from the opponents to, to make some kind of point. And I'd be curious which food pantries don't have food, because we had an effort through the entire pandemic to work with numerous charities to make sure they all had food.
Okay, thank you very much.
Maybe she should walk some of the neighborhoods I go to.
No, you're out of line, I'm sorry. No, we go as we can with the individuals. Again, robust discussion is great, and you want to get your point across. My job is also to get you to address a variety of issues. So I'm not taking away from anyone's, whether experience, overriding principles, whatever. Feel free to express them. But also, remember the people not in this room. There are a lot of people that are going to watch this, and they may be keeping a scorecard about points of view, as well as plans, as well as suggestions. So do your utmost to get yourself across, all of you. And I think you've started doing that, and my job is to make that keep happening tonight. Okay? The next question, we'll start, Mr. Esteban, with you. We're hearing a lot about prison overcrowding and the enormous costs of maintaining prisoners. In Suffolk County, there is a Suffolk County jail, reports in through the sheriff. We haven't had a lot of publicity on that, but we have, of course, on Rikers Island, and it still is an issue, the numbers of people who are incarcerated pre-trial and then post, before they go on to serve time elsewhere. Do you have a plan or any suggestions about controlling costs for prisons yet keeping the public safe?
With that, it's, I look at what's happening in our culture that is causing so many people to be incarcerated. What is happening, and we have to look at the big issue. Certain communities, are they being targeted? How is our policing? We have some communities that are targeted for these police programs, and it's a big detriment to that neighborhood when all the police swoop in on it, especially if it's a neighborhood that happens to be of a certain racial or ethnic category. It's very, very devastating to the neighborhood. So it's something we all have to work on and improve. And it's a grassroots base. I always like to think that it's better when you educate a community, provide a community with resources, rather than to have the government come in there and legislate and bring in police. So we have to take care of our prisoners as well. They have families and they're prisoners and they're still people. So I also have great compassion for them.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Berline?
Yeah, our Suffolk County Sheriff, Errol Toulon, is incredible and cares about the people in his jails and provides wonderful services for them, and really wants to do everything that he can to prevent recidivism, and he's just doing a great job. As far as who's in the facilities, what's happened because of the opioid crisis is there are a lot of people who are in prison because of drug use, and I don't think people should be there with an opioid addiction. I think people should be treated and should get the mental health that they need and the drug addiction treatment they need, and I think that would alleviate a lot of people who are behind bars. They should be separated from that. But if they're violent criminals, I think they should remain behind bars and keep the public safe.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Donnelly?
So thank you. Kind of a multi-layered problem that the nation is following and nation is faced with. So I would just echo everything that Legislator Berlin said, and I would add we all know that Sheriff Toulon's doing a terrific job. He's got a whole cadre of programs that he's trying to implement in terms of trying to deconstruct the prison pipeline. And in terms of the incarceration, it's a challenge. It's a real challenge. There are those folks, as Legislator Berlin alluded to, who have kind of minor, drug offenders who probably shouldn't be incarcerated. But I think, and this is really important, there are dangerous people in our society that have to be incarcerated, and you can't lose sight of that. We're looking at, rising gun violence, both in New York City and even in parts of Nassau and Suffolk. So it is important that we acknowledge that we do have dangerous people in our society that do have to be incarcerated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Becker.
Thank you. Wow, I actually agree with pretty much almost everything that was said. That being said, there is already a plan in place that we can implement right here in Suffolk County. President Trump signed the First Step Act for people in federal prisons. It has been a tremendous success. We have people that were in prison for too long, people that have been already rehabilitated, and implement the programs to rehabilitate more. So the First Step Act, I say we copy it, we apply it on a local county level, and let's make actual reform that we all want. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. The next question will start with Ms. Berland. What is being done for Suffolk County residents to feel safe from guns and gun violence?
Our police department is, doing really, the best they can to protect all of our citizens. And the uptick in gun violence is very disturbing. And we have anti-gang units that are working diligently to make sure that the guns get off the streets. We have gun buyback programs where we encourage people to, give the guns in exchange for, they get gift cards, they get different monetary things. And, what's important is that people feel safe in this county. And our crime numbers have gone down, and I believe people do feel safe in the county. And we just, need to continue to work with our Suffolk County Police and show that they're supported and that, they're doing everything they can to keep us safe.
Okay, Mr. Donnelly.
So thank you. So I chair the Legislative's Public Safety Committee, so protecting our residents is a very sacred responsibility that I take given my background. And we work really hard. Legislator Berlin is on the Public Safety Committee. We work really hard with our district attorney and our police department. And it's a challenge. The gun violence in our nation is frightening, to say the least. It's frightening, but I've used this word a couple times. It's a multi-layered problem, right? The criminal justice reform has had an impact where they're not being held. The same people are committing the same crimes. So we have to make some changes to the criminal justice reform. We do have to challenge ourselves to deal with the interstate gun trafficking that's plaguing our nation as well as the new phenomenon of ghost guns, where guns are actually made in our house. So it's a very, very difficult challenge, but I assure you and I assure everybody out there, there is nothing more important to me than keeping our families safe. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Becker.
Thank you. The real question is, who's committing the gun violence? We need to take a look at who's doing this. Is it somebody that was just released from jail? Was it appropriate to release them? Or was it just a random homeowner who got mad one day? We need to commission a study to find out and see if there's trends and patterns. And if there are trends and patterns, then we can see if are there laws already that would cover this and protect us if they were enforced. If there are, then we need to enforce it. It's already there. And if they're not, then go ahead. We can pass a new one. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Esteban.
Yes, so the neighborhoods I visit, I campaign in, I walk in, such as Brentwood, North Bay Shore, this is a daily problem for them. They're scared to bring their children to the park. I feel like we let a lot of these communities down, and that's why I'm running for them. I'm running for their vote. I want to be their legislator. I want to work harder for them. legislature has been around a long time, and we're paying a lot for police and resources, and it seems it doesn't get to certain communities. And it's just a shame. They deserve better. We all deserve better in Suffolk County. I mean, if you're with me, and I got Republicans, conservatives, and Democrats who are all going to vote for me because they agree. We deserve better. And I'm not a politician. I'm just an everyday man. And they hear me. You know, I may not have all the details of what's happening with the budget, but they know, as I know, we all deserve better, especially those communities that are struggling and that bear the burden of poverty and violence and everything that comes along with it. God bless those families that live in those neighborhoods, and I'm going to help you.
Okay. The next question will start with Mr. Donnelly. What can be done to help ease the opioid crisis on Long Island, and how will settlement money from the lawsuit against drug companies be used?
So another really, really terrific question. And, you know, the opioid crisis has been plaguing our nation for decades now. Through the leadership of our presiding officer, the county filed a lawsuit against a number of the opioid manufacturers, and it was recently settled. So the county is going to be receiving $25 million for opioid addiction programs. So we're really, really happy about that. Legislator Berlin and myself are on the county executives committee to ensure that the contract agencies that we spoke about are going to receive that funding to help with the opioid crisis. I would make the argument that the opioid crisis has three components, almost like a triangle, and it's education, it's enforcement, and it's treatment. And we have to understand that opioid addiction is just that. It's a disease, and it has to be treated. And the programs that we have, folks are really working very hard at the town level and at the county level to address this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Becker.
Thank you. There's a couple different kinds of situations that we have. We have the illegal drug trade, which is killing lots of people. I mentioned earlier, lost a family member, and I lost a family friend in the past year to fentanyl. There's also the opioids that are prescribed by doctors that abuse that. There's also the doctors like we have currently, Doc Spencer in the 18th Legislative District, who's arrested, giving away opioids. We have to address it on all levels. It has to be a comprehensive approach. We need law enforcement, we need to support them, and we need to find out how the illegal drugs are getting in here. That's a big issue. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Esteban.
So first of all, I'll say, I'll ask my opponent to please not laugh at me or shake her head at me, because I'm not a politician. I'm a constituent in your district, and please show me the respect that I'm running for office despite my having a family and 7 children who don't see their dad, because I want to serve the public. So please show your composure and show me respect, because you have to show my community respect as well. Now, in terms of...
If I can Mr. Esteban, no, I'm not.
In terms of the opioid...
Mr. Esteban, just let me say something to everyone, okay? And you'll have those seconds back.
Okay.
Please don't do that. I'm not singling you out, because I'm going to address this to every single one of you. I didn't see anything. That doesn't mean there was a reaction, but for the purpose of our audience, what I really need is all 4 of you to spend what's only 60 seconds on each of these questions. So I don't want you hurting yourself by not being able to use your full 60 seconds. That's my comment, okay? And in your closing statement, again, you're going to build yourselves up. You want votes, all of you, and that's the mission tonight. So I think he used about 25 seconds in that first part. So if you could summarize your opioid answer, please.
Okay, so thank you for allowing me to say that. It was important to me. My brother died about 2 years ago as a result of the opioid epidemic, and no amount of settlement money will bring my 36-year-old brother back. And again, government failed my brother. That's part of the reason I'm running. Government failed my brother. They had all the money they needed, and they failed him. And that's all I could say about that. Government is failing, and nobody can rebut that.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Berland, your answer to the question?
Yes, but I just think I have.
No, please, spend your
I mean, I
60
didn't,
seconds.
I didn't laugh, I didn't do anything, I didn't disparage him in any way, shape, or form. He
Okay,
did make a
but
comment about the Brentwood community, and I think the Brentwood community gets a bad rap. And people in Brentwood, I walk there all the time, they are not afraid to take their kids to the park. So I took umbrage at that.
Okay.
But there was no laughter and there was nothing else.
Okay.
So, thank you. But as far as the opioid crisis is concerned, as Legislator Donnelly said, we were the first county to file suit against the drug manufacturers. We are going to have millions of dollars, and we have a task force that is directed to spend that money and make sure it's spent on treatment and rehabilitation and prevention, because that's the only way we're going to get past this. So we are doing everything that we can. We're waiting for the recommendations from the task force going forward.
Okay,
Thank
thank you. Mr. Becker, the next one starts with you. Do you favor COVID vaccine and mask mandates in schools, businesses, county buildings, and elsewhere? And if you were in charge, how would you direct the handling of another outbreak of COVID or another similar disease?
Thank you very much. I favor choice in almost everything, simply because as an American, I feel the freedom to choose is a fundamental aspect of our citizenship. So I favor choices. With the masks especially, like I said, I work in the construction HVAC industry. The V stands for ventilation. I work in air purification, filtration. If you have a mosquito problem in your backyard, you don't put up chicken wire. I understand this. When Cuomo announced that MERV 13 filters will open up the malls, I laughed, because I almost choked on my coffee driving to work, because I know that nothing less than MERV 15 will do that. So I think we apply technical knowledge to actually make the building safer. I know the equipment that can make the air in this room that we breathe perfectly safe to breathe. And I would apply that knowledge to every public building in Suffolk County. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Esteban, your answer, please.
Yes, so I mean, to answer that question, it's a bit of a hypothetical question. It certainly depends on how severe the outbreak is and what's happening. I am not a medical expert. I'm not a doctor. I'm a man that works 8 in the morning to 6 at night to feed his family, that wants to have a better, more efficient Suffolk County government that is capable of addressing this question. Of course, we have to balance the rights of parents, parental rights. There are groups out there that do not want a mask on their child. And we also have to balance that with the need to keep the general public safe. So this is a very difficult question to answer. It depends on what the available medicine is at that time, what technologies we have available, and how severe the outbreak is, and many other factors. I'm not going to stand up here and pretend I know the answer to give you. I would defer to experts to help me as a legislator do that, because we have different groups that feel differently on this, and we have to find a balance that is comfortable for everyone.
Thank you. Okay. Ms. Berlin?
Yes, I mean, the experts say that by definition, a vaccine is something that's supposed to protect you from getting sick. So I think people should take the vaccine, because if we've learned anything from COVID, you're only as safe as your neighbor. And if, you're talking to your neighbor and you took the vaccine and your neighbor didn't, and your neighbor's positive and your neighbor's talking to you, even though you have the vaccine, you can still get COVID. So we have to learn how to take care of our neighbors. We have to stop being just about ourselves and think about what is best for everyone, because you are only as safe as your neighbor is. There's so many people that we lost from COVID, and they didn't have to die. If there was a vaccine earlier, they didn't have to die. And if I know people who didn't take the vaccine and they passed, and it's just it's terrible. And I think with mask mandates, if you say if you didn't have a vaccine, wear a mask. Well, that doesn't work, because then people are like, oh, you're the one with the mask, but you didn't take a vaccine. So I think we should all be together and take care of each other.
Thank you. Mr. Donnelly?
So the mask wearing mandates as well as the vaccine mandates actually don't fall under the auspices of local government control. So just want to make that point. It falls under the control of the New York State Health Department, and they take their direction from the federal government Centers for Disease Control. So really, as the local municipal government, we have to follow the direction of the State Health Department. That's where we take our direction from on what public places will require a mask, what public places don't require a mask. The same can be said for the vaccinations. So it's a difficult issue. It's very highly volatile throughout our country. Many people have strong opinions on both sides, and everybody is entitled to their opinion. I would just say, as a matter of personal choice, getting the vaccine, I'm glad I got the vaccine. I've been able to live my life a little more freely, and if folks want us to wear a mask at any particular gathering, I'm happy to wear the mask as well. But it is a highly charged issue, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Becker, you want to rebut?
Yes, thank you very much.
Before you
30
start, this
seconds.
is your second,
Thank
so
you.
that's it.
I had mentioned earlier work avoidance. So again, if we just push it back and say, oh, New York State mandates it, we have to do it. I encourage everybody at home to look up Rensselaer County here in upstate New York. See how they stood up, how they protected their people. So stop the work avoidance. We hire representatives to go work for us on our behalf and to push back against governors that overreach. Anybody to protect the people of Suffolk County. We need somebody in there that's going to work for us and not practice work avoidance. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will, Mr. Donnelly, that's your second.
I wasn't even going to respond. I don't know why I am, but I just take exception to the work avoidance. I've been a public servant my entire life. I've risked my life in very, very dangerous situations. So the concept of work avoidance is utterly ridiculous. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so you've both finished your rebuttals. The next question starts with Mr. Esteban. Now that the school year is in full swing, if you were elected a county legislator, what would you implement, or what would you propose to do to help students impacted by the pandemic? Any ideas or programs?
Well, first of all, let me be clear. My family is vaccinated. My children have been going to school and getting a nice education, even during COVID, and it has been hard on my family. What could I say? I think there could be some child care money. Some families are struggling with child care needs if the children have to stay home because they can't go to school. And this is where we have to have funds so that there's enough to help the schools and to help the families in these situations. And again, I just keep going back to it. The money just doesn't get to them.
Okay.
It just doesn't get to them.
Ms. Burley?
Yeah, I've had programs for a long time that concentrate on kids. We have a youth program in the county where the kids volunteer to, help in different organizations. They go to all the county parks, and, they better themselves physically, emotionally, and through service. And when you give children those opportunities, they really thrive. We've always done a study guide in our office where the students who've used guides for like SATs or ACTs the year before, they donate the study guide back, and then we give it to students who maybe can't afford to buy the study guides. There are going to be so many different impacts by COVID, whether a child has lost a parent or not. And we get involved in Big Brothers Big Sisters, to help that particular family and get a role model that they've lost. If it's there are just so many different ways that children can be impacted. But we have so many programs in the county, and I deal with constituents all the time. People call me and they need help, and I'm there.
Thank you. Mr. Donnelly, excuse me.
So we've actually been doing pretty well as we're coming through the pandemic. So we take part in the Distinguished Youth Award. It's a community service award, and I'm always very proud. Legislator Burl, I get a kick out of this, but the 17th district has the most kids that get this award. The Half Hollow Hill School District, South Huntington School District, Suffolk School District. So we're really proud of that. But as been alluded to, there's a number of terrific after-school programs. Thursday's Children is a really great group that we've done some good work with. And certainly funding a lot of the after-school programs is always going to continue to be a priority. It's been a priority, since I've been a municipal elected official as a town board member, and we're going to continue that work. Thank you.
Mr. Becker, thank you.
Thank you. The first thing I would do is I would take the masks off the kids. The kids should not be in school all day wearing masks. My own son tells me the issues that other kids have. I talk to the children of my friends. They all tell me the same thing. The kids seem to be united against the masks. The technology exists to make the air in these buildings clean. We can use photocatalytic oxidation. We can use UVC lights. We can use ionization. We can use any combination thereof. And there's even more that I'm not going to do a whole lecture on that right now, but the technology exists. If we fiscally fix our situation, we can afford to equip every single school and public building with this, and we no longer have to worry about the air we breathe at all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Berland, this one starts with you. Why don't you give us two things that the county could do to keep the next generation in Suffolk?
Okay, first is provide more affordable housing, which I've worked very hard to do, and actually drafted legislation to make the county portion of any affordable housing development that's built affordable in perpetuity, because what ends up happening if affordable housing is built and it's not in perpetuity, it becomes market rate, and then future generations don't have an opportunity to take advantage of that. We also have to provide jobs for our younger people to stay, and jobs that pay enough money to, allow them to live here. Part of that, I think we work very closely with Suffolk Community College, and they're providing great programs, and they have an auto mechanic program that's going to be really up and coming. There are so many, needs for auto mechanics, and for kids, coming up who want to get a job, who want to learn about cars and the computers with cars. So we've been working very closely with Suffolk Community College to bring that program to fruition. So we have to provide them education, we have to provide them jobs and housing.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Donnelly?
Jobs. So I'm proud of a lot of work that we've done, both on the town board as well as a county legislator, in helping businesses get started, streamlining the permitting process, helping them hire employees. Our modern capital system in our country works. It does work. So having those people, the young folks, being able to get jobs, whether it's in the biotech industry, as Legislator Berlin said, in the workforce industry, the trade schools, they're all terrific programs that we work on every day. And I would add that the affordable housing is a component because the down payment is rough, but you have to have an area to bridge that. And I think the affordable housing kind of fits that, but it's got to fit the character of the neighborhood, and there has to be buy-in from the neighborhood. It just can't be planted somewhere. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Becker?
Thank you. I know the struggle of being in your 20s and trying to rent an apartment here in Long Island, being in your 30s and trying to buy a house. It's next to impossible. It's only getting worse. The answer is not more government, bigger government. If only we had one more program. Typically, it's the government, with the taxes that it takes from us, that gets in the way and hinders growth. I was young, but I remember when Northrop Grumman left. They went to a place with lower taxes. All the young people that are leaving here, they're going to places with lower taxes, with less intrusive government. That's where they're going. So maybe we take a cue and see where they're heading from, and we try to copy those places so the businesses come back and the people come back, and there'll be lucrative jobs for them here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Esteban?
Thank you. So I agree with Ms. Berland and Mr. Donnelly and Mr. Becker on the points they said, especially the point about having more housing for smaller units. However, I do want to underscore a point that we have to have some successes financially in terms of our bond rating, because people want to leave because they don't see the financial situation improving. However, to improve our financial situation, we need to have legislators who are willing to have a firm line on certain contracts that in many of our views are unconscionable. However, I will keep going back. They have to stop taking that special interest money money to be able to do that. And I have a pact here that I'd like candidates and legislators to sign that they will not take that kind of money. They will not vote on contracts that they have a conflict of interest in. This is the only way. And if you're a legislator or you're a candidate and you're willing to do that, please call me and sign on and show the people that we're not selling out.
Thank you. Okay. The next question, we'll start with Mr. Donnelly. Revitalization of Suffolk's downtowns is a huge issue with many vacant storefronts. Poverty levels have increased. Is there a role for the county in helping local governments address these issues?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a very large role. So the Downtown Revitalization Grant Program is really important. That money goes directly to the towns. So we've applied both for Babylon and Huntington in specific areas for them to get that grant. And it's all about the character of the neighborhood. You know, I was born, lived, raised my family in the heart of the 17th Legislative District in Deer Park, and the Deer Park that I grew up in is not the Deer Park that I live in now. So you have to recognize that it's not the Long Island of the 1950s and 1960s and 1970s, which we all love, but that it is changing. So county government has a huge role. It's all about the interrelationships, and people have said this about whatever it means, work avoidance, but the town has a very, very specific role. They're primarily the municipality that deals with land use. The county's role is to support that, and I will continue to do that.
Okay, Mr. Becker?
Thank you. The county absolutely can help. The important thing is sustainable development. I love developing, but we have to do it the right way. So if a downtown needs revitalization, well, part of that is, let's say, taking care of the zombie house situation, which we were told would be fixed by now, but it's not. Another method is building up our own infrastructure. Buses help. They help a lot of people that need them. We need to make sure that it gets even better. We reach out to the communities that use the public transportation. Everybody knows Suffolk County's public transportation is not very good, but people need it. And we have to, again, just develop it sustainably. Queens is a wonderful place. My wife grew up there. My parents live there now. But this is Long Island. We want to keep Long Island the way it is. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Esteban.
Thank you. So downtown revitalization. I'm a foodie and I love restaurants and I want to help our restaurant businesses as much as possible. You know, many of my fundraisers were at smaller size restaurants and they really appreciated my business and we had a really nice time there. And I want to thank La Candela Restaurant and La Volini in East Northport and the staff. Thank you, and God bless you. Keep up the good work to these small businesses who hung in there, and we have to help them. And you're my voters, and I'm not going to sell out to you, the small businesses. I'm not going to sell out.
Ms.
And
Berlin? Oh, I'm sorry. Continue, please.
And we have to help people, everyday people get better jobs here in Long Island and get more money. And I'm not going to sell out for you. I'm going to fight for you every single day, even though I've never been a legislator. But I know the struggles you go through because I grew up as a poor boy and I'm not a rich man now. But I am an attorney and you can accomplish great things through studying and through hard work. And I am for you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Berlin.
The revitalization of our downtowns is so important because people need a place to, walk to a restaurant, to walk to the bank, to walk to, a clothing store. And we need to make sure that those stores have the resources that they need to stay open. And during COVID, a lot of them closed, but we're able to help secure over $250 million to fund infrastructure projects, small businesses, and business reopenings, which, it has been available through the state and federal government as well. I'm very proud that in Huntington, if you're aware of the Paramount in Huntington, which, suffered tremendously during COVID and couldn't open, I brought the Paramount with the town board to Huntington, and I'm very proud of that. And it's a great place to see a concert, and it has totally reopened up Huntington Village, and that's what downtown revitalization is about. And we have, as Legislator Donnelly said, the revitalization program for downtowns, where different towns can make applications to the county, and we review them all the time and fund them.
Okay, thank you. So we have a question from the people out there.
In Zoom
And
land.
I'm going to put it in a little bit of a context. I've noticed, in driving throughout Suffolk, that people have just the notifications I get on my phone for local traffic accidents with injuries, lots of problems with people driving distracted, all kinds of things. Seems to have gotten worse in the last year or so. So the question that came through, and I don't have all the background on this, do you support the current structure of red light camera programs? And I know they had been modified and there were some court things, so we should probably have a little comment on that. And would you support similar programs such as speed cameras in the idea of somehow controlling this scofflaw approach to traffic rules? I've seen 10 cars pull in front of ambulances. You know, nobody's paying attention anymore. So, Mr. Becker, your comment, your thoughts on the red light camera?
Absolutely. I myself am not a fan of the red light camera program in Suffolk County. If you go online, you just Google it, and you'll see that in one of the reports, it actually states from the county that several intersections actually had an increase in deaths because once the red light cameras were put in. That's disturbing. To me, it seems like the red light cameras are just a revenue scam for the county. And also, if you map it out, they seem to be around predominantly ethnic areas. I think the red light camera has not been a success. Nassau County, they issued theirs, just like we did. It wasn't good, and then they remedied it. They changed it. Now it's working a lot better than it was. In general, I'm not a fan of them. The roads are in terrible condition. The potholes have gotten worse than ever. I drive all the time. I see people swerving horribly, causing accidents because these potholes will destroy your car, cause thousands of dollars worth of damage. That's why I support putting some kind of digital reporting for every driver for potholes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Esteban.
Yes, Lisa, thank you for the question. Something happening in Suffolk County is the social contract is broken. People are having to work longer hours, multiple jobs to make ends meet. They're tired, they're stressed out, they're in traffic, they're angry. So yeah, there's traffic out there and people are running lights, but we have to get what's going under that. We have to make things better for people here, and that's why I'm running, because we're failing the taxpayer, we're failing the residents. We have to work harder. The job of being a legislator is much more than ribbon cuttings and social events. It is digging deep down, and how can we really help people so they're a little happier, so they have an extra hour in their day to relax or be with their children. How could we do that so that we improve a culture where there isn't this road rage and we have to have cameras and police bear down on people?
Thank you.
And that's what I'm looking at.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Berlin?
Well, the red light camera program to me is pretty simple. If you stop at the red light, you don't get a ticket. There are certain locations that I disagree with, and I have voiced that and asked them to be removed. For instance, if you're going to make a right on red into a shopping center, and nobody's coming in the opposite direction, I don't think there should be red light cameras when you're making a right on a red into a shopping center. So I've advocated for the removal of those. We instituted the bus camera tickets as well. So if you pass the stop sign on a bus, and I drove a bus for 10 years, and nothing is more harrowing than watching a car drive past your bus when your stop sign is out and your lights are on. And, people are going to object to that too because they don't want to get that ticket. But if you pass the stop sign and you pass those flashing lights, you're going to get a ticket because you could kill a kid. And if you go through a light, you deserve a ticket. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Donnelly.
So the red light camera program is a traffic safety program, just that. It's not a revenue-producing program. In 2014, when it was implemented, it got an all-18 support. The entire Republican caucus voted for it. So there have been some challenges along the way, and there have been several studies that have been commissioned. As Legislator Berlin alluded to, Public Works in the 18 different districts is trying to address those problems. We get a lot of quality of life complaints as local legislators. That's what we do. Our staff does a good job in trying to address them. Stop signs, red light turns, speeding. You can't have a police officer at every intersection. It's just not feasible. We need to have alternate mechanisms where we can enforce the traffic safety laws. So I think the red light program is a success, actually. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Esteban, this next one will start with you. What would you do to combat racism and hatred in Suffolk County? The question goes on, in light of what happened recently in Northport, 3 things. Racial slurs were hurled at an African-American man on Main Street. A man waved a flag with a swastika in front of the Northwell Health CEO while protesters were there. And a swastika was carved into a piece of plastic playground equipment at an elementary school. Your thoughts?
No, I'm very good with these sort of things. It's we have to get people together. We have to have ecumenical programs. It's not just about one group getting together and advocating for their group and another group advocating for their group. It seems to cause more divisions. I'd like to see more ecumenical programs, fairs, outings where we're all getting together, because Suffolk County is one of the most segregated counties in this whole country. I'll say that again. Suffolk County is the most segregated county in the whole country. It's terrible. And we have to have events where we're all getting together and doing things together. Different racial groups, different religious groups, even different socioeconomic groups. We have to start blending. We're too segregated, and I'm the perfect candidate because I am Hispanic American. So I would bring diversity to the legislature and a perspective, because I really, really want to work hard for the working class and middle class people.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Berlin?
Yes, thank you. As the only Jewish person on the Suffolk County Legislature, I can tell you that I have been the subject of anti-Semitism in this county, and it's incredibly disheartening. So what I think is really important is education. A lot of times people have biases against people because they don't really know who they are, and so we need to get to know each other better, and we need to, work together to teach our children, because a lot of times the children are learning things from their parents. And it's up to each of us to make sure we raise a generation of people who are not going to hate people because of the color of their skin. Like Martin Luther King said, don't judge you by the color, but you judge you by the quality of the person you are. And these acts are terrible, but we all need to get together. There was in the district, there was graffiti on a mosque, and you know what? The rabbi came, I came, Christian people came, Muslim people came, all to say, not in our county.
Thank you. Mr. Donnelly.
Hate has no place in our society as a civilized people, and there's so much of it in our nation right now. We live in a very polarized society, and as Legislator Berlin and all of us would agree, education is important, and hate is too hard. Love is a lot easier. That's kind of what I always tell my kids. And empathy and compassion are really good skills to have, and now more than ever, we need to have responsible, polite people who are serving in government in our society.
Thank you. Mr. Becker.
Thank you very much. I have an interesting perspective because I'm the son of a Colombian immigrant, grew up as an English as a second language student. My wife is an Afghan immigrant, so my children are an interesting combination, let's say the least. And I see the biggest issue that we have with racism is the teaching of critical race theory in our kids' schools. I've seen what that curriculum says. It's horribly offensive. It teaches our children to be divided instead of unifying. And the schools bring it in under diversity, equity, and inclusion, or social emotional learning, because they know if they called it CRT, people would be upset. So I say let's teach our kids to be together, not to be against each other, not to separate our kids. Let's unite our kids. Kids are kids, they'll get together anyway. Let's not teach hate. Let's get CRT and DEI and SEL out of our school. Thank you.
Okay, well, folks, we've gone through our list of questions, both online and prepared. So I'm going to ask each of you to make your closing statement, which again is limited to 1 minute. And as we agreed at the beginning, it will be in reverse order. So Mr. Esteban, you'll go first in closing, then Ms. Berlin, Mr. Donnelly, then Mr. Becker. And 1 minute to make your pitch to your voters.
Okay, thank you. So I think I made it clear in tonight's debate, Meet the Candidate tonight, that I'm here to represent all people. I especially want to represent the working class people and the middle class people who have been unrepresented. The social contract in Suffolk County has been broken for many of us who are working way too hard and are tired, and you deserve better, and I will provide better for you. I wake up at 4 in the morning, as early as 4 in the morning, to start working, and that's how hard I will work as your legislator. You could look at my website or contact me, and I will give you the link on where you can see what donations your elected official is receiving. And again, we'll see who signs my agreement not to sell out the voter, not to sell you out, to always vote in your interest, because if they're taking money from special interest, how the heck do you think they're going to vote in your favor? And we have to fix that. That is at the heart. That is the elephant in the room. And I wish we would have had more questions on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Berlin.
First, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for having this tonight. Thank Five Towns College and everybody out there who's watching. You know, I've been a public servant for 20 years. I represent all of my constituents equally. I care mostly about making the lives of people in Suffolk County better. That's my passion. You know, I ask you, take a look at my website, susanaberlin.com. You'll see my record. You see all the legislation that I've passed and how I've made people's lives better for the last 20 years. I ask you, do your research on all the candidates, see what we stand for, see what we've put out in our literature, and then, you know, make your decision, make an informed decision. I humbly, you know, respectfully ask for your support and your vote on November 2nd. There's also early voting from October 23rd to 31st, and I would love to continue to do the job I truly love. And I do have to make a shout out to the Brentwood community. I know you're not afraid to go to your parks, and I'm there for you and have been ever since I've been elected. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Donnelly.
So it's been an honor and a privilege to serve our 17th Legislative District for the last 4 years. I do hope that folks consider me on Election Day on Tuesday. I think I lead with a degree of empathy, compassion, dedication, strong will, courage to take on the tough challenges, and mostly to serve our residents, all kind of rolled into one ball, so to speak. And I'm really, really proud of the work that I've done in the 17th Legislative District, particularly the last 19 months where so many have suffered. I'm proud of the work that my staff has done. We remained open throughout the COVID, even in the darkest days, making sure that the pantries were getting what they needed, people could get their vaccines, people could get to their unemployment insurance, and that the local government is the first contact that residents always have, and I'm proud of the work that I've done. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Becker, your closing statement.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us here. Mentioned earlier that my own daughter, she's nonverbal, so I'm used to being the voice for her. I feel like the people of Suffolk don't have their voice either. The local government, they just run roughshod all over us. If they can't raise our taxes, they raise our fees and hope we don't notice, like a mortgage recording fee. It's time we took our local government back. It's time we had our voice. I don't believe we elect leaders. I believe we elect representatives that are there to fight for us. So thank you so much. On November 2nd, I hope I have your support. God bless you, and God bless America.
Okay, to all four of you, we thank you for civility. We thank you for bringing up and giving good pictures of your opinions on a variety of subjects to the people watching in all the districts. A couple of reminders to everyone. Monday, the 18th, is the last day you can postmark a request for the absentee ballot. You can also do it online, but it has to be done by Monday. Online takes 30 seconds. It's terrific. And although we still are waiting for the New York State Constitution to be changed to allow no excuse absentee ballots, in fact, fear of COVID or a similar disease is a valid excuse. So people in general they take this very seriously, want to make sure it's right if they check off illness. This year, it is true, you can. Also, as I hope you all know, let me back up. With the absentee ballot, you can still apply up through Election Day in person in Yaphank, which for people in this area is no easy trip, I realize. But there is that option, although at that point, you can go to the polling places. There's 12 early voting sites, I think you all know. You can vote at any of them. They'll start October 23rd, the Saturday, and go through the following Sunday. Monday, November 1st, is a day of rest for voting machines. They are transported from the early voting sites to the actual polling places throughout the community. So I know people sometimes think they can vote all the way up through. And of course, you can look up that you're registered and find your polling place online through the New York State Board of Elections, which has a fabulous website. The League also is very involved, as Liz said at the beginning of the introduction today. We publish a directory of public officials, which is a tool for any citizen, any resident of Suffolk County to learn about who represents them and how to contact people from village all the way up to the federal government. And actually there is in the center, since you all talked about it today, an analysis of the county budget. How it's spent and where the revenue comes from. We get that directly from the budget department, and it has some text detail as well. And there's actually a map of the legislative districts in it too. And the other thing is, I think a lot of people don't realize what offices are on their ballot this year. So the League has a website called Vote 411, which is a national endeavor. Just Google Vote 411, vote411.org. All you have to do, you don't identify yourself, you put in your address. And when you put in your address, it will tell you what's on your ballot. The offices and the candidates. Candidates are supposed to upload their information. Not every candidate does, but you will still know who's on your ballot. But the other piece of it is also on your ballot when you turn it over, whether absentee, early voting, or on Election Day, there are 5 New York State propositions. And they are very complex. So the League actually put together another handout, which is also on the Suffolk County League website in English and Spanish. We do have not everything, but a good proportion bilingual now. And it's very small print because the propositions are complicated. But propositions cannot be introduced by people like in California. They can only be introduced by state legislators, the Assembly and Senate, and they have to be passed in both houses twice in 2 different legislative terms. So it takes a minimum of 2.5 years, could be 4 years, to get on the ballot. Once on the ballot, the people, the voters, vote yes, vote no. If it's no, it has to start all over again. If it's still a popular idea. If it's yes, it goes into as an amendment to the New York State Constitution. These aren't laws. These are things in the Constitution. Then it's up to the lawmakers to make the laws related to what the people have said they want in each of those 5 categories. This also is on the Suffolk County League's website. So that's the civic lesson for today. No tests later. And And again, great thanks to Five Towns College for hosting this. They've been a wonderful partner all along. And thanks to all of you for your dedication, your enthusiasm to serve the public. And we wish you all well. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.